Hardy here. Today in my video I am going to use the other boards against the IO-Hawk, demonstrate it, give some real world tests and comparisons, and let's see what we get. Let's talk about the gyroscopes. Now the IO-Hawk's got very good gyroscopes. It's gyroscopes are certainly, keeps its balance, and these work really good. They know when you're going forward or backwards. Anyway, they work just like they're supposed to. So that's what we have with this. My Mercedes brand here. Gyroscopes seem to work just fine. Pick up with just the slightest bit of motion. That's good. The button on this one is on the bottom. A little bit interesting, huh? It's the 10-inch one. And the gyroscope seems to pick up with just without any hesitation. Okay. Now we're going to do my last brand over here, and this is the Star logo brand. This one works pretty good too, but the one issue with this one is that you start leaning a little bit. It has more give, so you lean, and you start leaning like a degree or two before it starts to pick up and realize that that you're leaning forward or backwards. So I mean, for a beginner, it's probably a bad recommendation for a beginner, because you'll start feeling like you're falling and stuff like that, and that's where people start panicking. Because I mean, I've ridden these for a long time, so certainly, I can get over that pretty easy. But for a beginner, you start leaning backwards more or forwards more, and it feels different when you're shifting your balance forward or backwards, and that play in it is certainly a negative. Let's talk about turning. Very important part of the IO-Hawk and another brand operation. So to start out with, the IO-Hawk, this is the one that I learned on. Turns on it work well. It pivots in the middle, so certainly pushing one of the pedals forward and one back will make you spin. Pushing forward more on one side than the other will make you turn, and it's a pretty simple operation in the way that works. But it turns on this one, turns really good. When I say that, what does that mean? Well, I got to compare it to the other brands. Now this brand here, the Star brand, when you're on it, it turns very close to what the IO-Hawk does. Not much difference at all, just typical turns and things. So pretty much the same. Now with the Mercedes brand, this one is very, very sensitive on turns. Takes just a little bit of a push on the turn, and you really turn. So it's very sensitive. At first when I was on it, I was like, yeah, that's really sensitive. But you get used to it. So I mean, some of it is a matter of getting used to these, and I've been riding all of these for quite a while to make sure that I can get a handle of them before I really start trying to compare it. So these are not blind comparisons. I've learned and used these for a while now. But it is very sensitive with turns, and you can turn really fast. So it's a little bit hard to control, even with some practice. Speaking of that, the IO-Hawk has a method where what it does is it turns down the sensitivity of the gyroscopes on the turns. So accelerometers, I guess, is what I'm told is more responsible for the rapidness of the turn. And it turns those settings down a little bit, so that when you're going pretty fast, it doesn't turn too hard on you and cause you to spill. The IO Hawk, I have no problems with that. With the other ones, it'll swerve a little bit. Even the 10-inch one swerves a little bit, and that one's it goes a little bit faster, and it's more of a fall going on that. But we'll do some line test videos and see where we go with that. The friction on the ground is, well, for the IO Hawk, the Mercedes brand, for the Star brand, well, I mean, all the tires are the same, pretty much. There's a little bit different tread, but that doesn't really matter. The tires are the same kind of metal tires. The motors inside might be different, but friction, no change. What I didn't expect with a 10-inch one was these are inflated tires. The motors in here are actually, it looks like the same size motor, but then it's got an inflated tire around it. It is important that you inflate them at the proper level, because when they're not inflated, it really drags quite a bit. When you're on this, and maybe you can pick up the sound, but yeah, so there's a lot of friction, and you feel the friction when you're turning. You feel the friction when you're moving forward, when you're moving backwards. You feel the friction, and it takes a little bit more effort. Depending on the surface, the friction can actually be pretty tough. The smooth surfaces, there's a lot less friction, but if you're outside, you always have to deal with friction on the 10-inch. Let's take a look at the outer shell. Now, the outer shell on the IO Hawk, it's kind of shiny. It's pretty strong, but it is very susceptible to scratches, which is why I protect my shell here. The shell on this one, well, the shell is the same body shell. They can crack. This one, someone fell, and this one did crack off, so this corner's been replaced. So, I mean, they're not invincible shells. This shell on the Mercedes brand, I mean, it's got a different design to it, and it's a different material. Kind of seems similar, but it is a different material. And this one, I mean, it feels, it rattles more. It feels lighter, and so this one, as you know, broken a few points. It's broken, especially where the screws kind of mount the frame, and it's kind of broken off in a couple of these down here, which, well, I mean, you have to deal with it. A lot of times you get scratches here, and this happens just normal riding it. So these kinds of scratches, what happens is when you come across a little bump or something like that, and you can certainly go over it, but it'll scrape and hit this part right here. So one, it gives you more of an impact, and if you're still learning how to ride it, I mean, you're more likely to take a spill, and it also marks up your board quite a bit more. So that's just a design flaw. On the 10-inch one, now this one, they certainly had to rethink the design of the case quite a bit. You've got the power and the power button and the port here to charge it. It's on the bottom, which truth is, especially depending on your weather, I don't know if it's a good place to put it. These are all designed so they'll roll, except for this one. This one's not designed to roll that well because, well, if you look at the frame, the way it's made here, it puts a lot more point specific on the edge here. These things, it's kind of made out of the same body, but, well, here, so this one's already cracked off a part here, and that's also just another consequence of this design for the shell. So the going over bumps, a couple things going over bumps. The manual says it can go over half-inch bump, no problem. You can get over kind of an inch bump, but it's certainly a lot more difficult. They're all pretty much the same, except the Mercedes brand, where the corner or the bottom edge kind of hits bumps as you go over them. Otherwise than that, I mean, they've got the same wheelbase. They all kind of perform just about the same, except for the 10-inch. So the 10-inch, it's a lot bigger. It's got inflated tires. It's got big rims. So anyway, this is really the only one I think that we need to take a look at and see how it performs on the bump test. So let's go over here. We've got some bumps. We'll give it a go. Let's try it right about there. Okay, that one you probably couldn't have to do with the hawk. Alright, let's try a little bit harder. That's pretty good. Takes a little bit of effort. Alright, well, so you can see you can get a little bit bigger bumps on this. Also the difference, because certainly when you hit the bump, you can actually pop up, you know, quite a bit more. It actually puts a lot more on your body. You're a little bit larger off the ground, so it takes a little bit more practice and control to be able to do the larger bumps, even though it has the capability with the bigger tires. The shakes, some people have talked to me and they said, yeah, you know, I get on it and it kind of shakes a little bit. Sometimes you have to kind of get off and get back on it before the shakes stop happening. And so, well, when you get on. So let me show you a couple of different things to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's take this brand here, which is the worst at it. So I've been able to replicate it like this, and depending on how you press on it. So now this one is the worst. This Mercedes brand. It does that. A 5-year-old kid, a friend of mine, his 5-year-old kid rides Iowa Hawk. He loves it. You know, he wants to get on this one. I think it's okay, right? He gets on it and starts shaking on him and everything. He gets, oh my God, he almost fell. So I'm not putting kids on that brand for sure. I'm not putting kids actually on any of the other brands. The Iowa Hawk I feel safe with, but you know, anyway, that's what I saw. And I think part of it's, you know, because if you don't put enough weight on it, and I can do it with my hands. If you don't put enough weight on it, then it'll shake on you. And maybe it's a weight factor, but so with this brand here, first we got to turn it on. So it's shaking some. I can't get it quite shake as much as I could. There we go. So that one does it. You know, truth is, I had a hard time getting the Iowa Hawk to do it. At first, I thought it didn't do it, but I've later given these. Like I said, these have all been tested. I've already gone through all these tests. So I'm showing you what I've got. But this one. All right, so the Iowa Hawk. Here, I almost did it. Well, like I said, it took me a long time, but I finally was able to get the Iowa Hawk to shake like that. So it is possible. For some reason, it's a tough one to do. Even this 10-inch one. And so yeah, this happens on all the brands. I've seen it happen on the Iowa Hawk too. So I mean, none of them are immune to it, but some are certainly more susceptible to it than others, like this one. So this is a bad one. Here, what's going on? I'm going to do the line test with this one, and I'm getting on it, and something's happening with the gyroscopes. I can hear it beeping. So. Yeah, this one's not behaving well at all. Yeah, something's wrong with that one. So I'm gonna see if I can reset that and see. I don't know. Okay, well, I didn't think this was going to be part of the video, but my Star brand is it's totally failing. It's not the gyroscope's messed up. Doesn't come with one of those remote controls, so I can't calibrate it. That's a good use for calibration, but in absence of that, we're going to open this thing up and I don't know. See if we can figure something out. I'm going to pull the battery and see if that helps.
Does it work?
I guess so. Let's give it a shot.
What'd you do?
What I did was I pulled the battery. I pulled the connectors for the gyroscopes, and then I put the connectors for the gyroscopes back on. Reconnected the battery. I looked around. I didn't see anything else that looked like it was a problem. Well, let's see how it works now. Okay, so the problem it had has been fixed. So, this test is the straight line going down a sidewalk. How fast can you go? How straight can you stay? First, we've got the yellow IOHawk. I'm going down the sidewalk and it seems like it's doing pretty good. I've got no issues. I mean, it is not perfectly straight, but it feels straight, and I feel no wobbles or anything like that. Coming down the sidewalk and hitting top speed pretty much the whole time. It's beeping at me, but not a problem. And that's how that one works. The second one I've got is the blue Mercedes. Now the blue Mercedes, it wobbles a lot more, right? It's a little bit harder to keep going top speed on that one because as it jerks a little bit, I mean, you can't maintain the top speed. But well, I don't know what to say about that one. That one's really the foot rests are kind of harder. They're not as flat as the other ones, and it is definitely more difficult to maneuver. The next one I've got is the Star brand. Now the Star brand, I could say I've taken a few tumbles on this one, and I didn't do it in this shot here, but if you hit a bump too hard, it'll mess up the gyroscopes and it'll just start beeping on you, and it doesn't jerk and make you fall off, but you better get off pretty quick because it'll come to a stop and just kind of lean over and let you off. Now this straight test is with the 10-inch wheel. The 10-inch wheel, well, I've talked about how it has friction already when you're riding it. It also drifts a little bit to the left and right, and not quite as bad, but because you're up higher on it, it's harder to really achieve full speed. I don't think I really achieved full speed on this video here, and I have done it before, but it is harder to do. There's cracks and things like that, and a little bit of bumps on the sidewalk, which is a real life test, and that's why we're using this test, and that's a demonstration that it is harder to reach full speed on the 10-inch wheel, and the 10-inch wheel does have a higher top speed, rated to be 10 miles per hour. Okay, these are my closing thoughts on comparing the IOHawk to the three other brands that I have here with me. Let's start out talking about the IOHawk again. Now the IOHawk is the standard to which all the other brands are compared. Rides great, controls really well, it does bumps, everything about it, it's a pleasure to use. I've also got the Star brand. Now, the Star brand, it has bad gyroscopes. The gyroscopes, you go over a bump, and sometimes the gyroscopes will just kind of lose, either it's the bump or something that happens, and it loses its sense of up and down, or left and right. So the gyroscopes on these do fail. It hasn't bumped me off of the device when it fails, but it'll start beeping and slowing down and just generally stopping. And so it's kind of a tough thing. You have to wait 30 seconds, get off of it, wait 30 seconds, get back on it after it stops beeping and resets itself. So I also had another time in here where I couldn't even write it because the gyroscopes or something was screwed up. Had to pull the battery, pull the gyroscopes, and put everything back together and continue on. So gyroscopes, bad on this one. Also, the battery light on this one, what happens is, the battery light starts out, it's green, looks good, then it goes yellow, and then it's not too much later, it goes red, and then it goes kaput. So it doesn't give you a lot of warning once we've reached the battery limitations on this one. And it wobbles more than the IOHawk does. Now to talk about the Mercedes brand. Now the Mercedes brand, well, quite frankly, it is the crap of the bunch. It does turns, and it does turns quite zippity and stuff like that. But when you're going on it, it's wobbly. It pulls left. It pulls right. The foot pedals on here, and there's no way I'm going to be able to see this, but the foot pedals, they bow up and down. So when you stand on it, your feet kind of like it's standing on a lump. So it's harder to ride that way. I've ridden it several times. It's not something you get used to. It's just it doesn't work that well. The shell on this thing, it's I don't know what it's made out of, but the material on it is not very good. And you go over bumps, and really you go in a bump of any size, and these things start hitting the bumps, and it doesn't really knock you off necessarily. It might, but these things get scratched up, and it's not good. It's not good. Also, the battery light on this one, it goes green, and it goes for a while, and then all of a sudden it goes blinking green, and then, gosh, just a few minutes after it starts blinking green, then it goes blinking red, and then it'll fail. So this one, unfortunately, if you go anywhere, you want to make sure you've got a full charge, because if you get halfway and then it starts blinking on you or something like that, you're never going to make it back. So this is something you can get stuck someplace because you don't have much warning on the battery. Finally, we've got the 10-inch wheel. Now this is the 10-inch wheel, and it's got a crack on it. But so this one, truth is, it is actually does better than the IOHawk on bumps. The wheels, less of a jolt and impact when you're going down or up, because it has a little bit more of a cushion and absorption in the air of the tires. But these tires are inflated, so they do cause friction on the ground. And well, the truth is, it's just 30 pounds, so it's quite a bit heavier. And if you got to go upstairs or something like that, or you got to carry it for some reason, it's a lot more to carry. The battery on this one is the same size as the other ones, and I'm not quite sure about the specifications on the batteries. They all are listed as being the same, but performance-wise, I don't know. All I know is what I'm told, and I'm told the IOHawk battery is the best battery brand out there. But regardless, they're all the same size. They all use the same charger. This one too, and it's a much heavier unit. Performance on it certainly won't be quite as far. And I talked about doing performance tests on all these things, but okay, this one for instance, it wobbles and it pulls when you're going on it. You saw my test on it where I was going straight. I can't. I've gotten full speed on this one before, but it's tough to get full speed because it pulls left, it pulls right, pulls left, and this one has a higher center of gravity than the other ones, and that certainly has an effect on how well and easy it is to overcome overcome those wobbles. The wobbles are just kind of a little bit larger and a little bit more push on your body, so it takes more counterbalance to keep control on those. So those are my closing thoughts on it. Everybody's going to buy what they buy, and
So Marty, do you think all of these were made in the same factory?
no. I do think that it appears some of the parts are made in the same factory. The shell, for instance, and these are some other videos I did, but the frames are, even on the 10-inch wheel, the frames are the exact same size. Now they've got some nickel plating on the Hawk, which is supposed to prevent rust, corrosion, and such. But I mean, outside that, really, they look like the same frame. The shell, certainly between the Star brand and the Hawk, I mean, it's the exact same shell. I would guess that's out of the same factory, but I don't know. I'm told that it's not, but I mean, I don't know. That's what I see.